Welcome to the Quiz Fix. I'm Cyril, and joining me as always is Olivia. Each week we dig into one real story from history, science or culture, and we close every episode with a quiz to make sure it sticks. Let's get into it. If you stand in northern New Mexico today, it's hard to imagine that one of the most secretive scientific efforts in history happened there. But during World War II, Los Alamos became the nerve center of the Manhattan Project, and the first atomic bomb test took place in the desert nearby. It's one of those moments where science, war, and history all collided at once.
And the scale of it is almost hard to wrap your head around. This was not just a laboratory project, it was a crash program involving thousands of people, huge amounts of money, and a race against time. The basic goal was stark: build a workable atomic weapon before Nazi Germany could do the same.
Right, and that urgency mattered. In 1938, scientists in Europe discovered nuclear fission, which is the splitting of an atom's nucleus. That discovery opened the door to the idea that a chain reaction might release enormous energy. By 1939 and 1940, several physicists, including refugees who had fled fascist Europe, were warning the United States that atomic research had military implications.
One of the famous early warnings came through the Einstein-Szilard letter, though Einstein himself did not work on the bomb. The letter urged President Franklin D. Roosevelt to pay attention to uranium research. That helped set things in motion, and eventually the American effort expanded into what became the Manhattan Project.
And the name itself sounds almost misleadingly ordinary. People hear Manhattan Project and picture New York offices, but the project was spread across multiple secret sites. There was Oak Ridge in Tennessee for uranium enrichment, Hanford in Washington for plutonium production, and Los Alamos in New Mexico for bomb design and assembly research.
Los Alamos was selected in 1943 because it was isolated, already had some federal land use, and could be kept relatively secure. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the theoretical physicist who became the scientific director there, knew the area from time spent in New Mexico. He helped persuade the Army to locate the lab on a mesa overlooking the Rio Grande Valley.
That landscape is so striking. Dry air, high elevation, open space, and a sense of being cut off from the rest of the world. In wartime, that isolation was an asset. But for the people who moved there, Los Alamos was a bizarre place. Scientists, engineers, military officers and families lived in a secret community with mail censorship, guard gates, and constant pressure.
And many of the scientists were working on problems that had never been solved before. There were two main bomb designs under development. One used uranium-235, and the other used plutonium. The plutonium device was more complicated because plutonium from reactors contained a form that made the simple gun-style approach unreliable. That pushed the team toward implosion, which meant compressing the core symmetrically with explosives.
That implosion design was a huge technical challenge. You had to shape explosive lenses so they would detonate in an incredibly precise way, all around the core at the same instant. If the timing was off, the bomb might fizzle or fail. So Los Alamos became a place of constant experimentation, calculations, and test explosions.
It's also worth remembering how broad the effort was. Los Alamos included top physicists like Hans Bethe, Richard Feynman, Enrico Fermi, and many others. There were also chemists, engineers, machinists, explosives experts, and hundreds of support staff. The project depended on a whole ecosystem of expertise, not just a few brilliant minds.
And the work was done under extraordinary secrecy. People often didn't know what their neighbors were building. Many workers were told only the parts of the project they needed to know. Even the site itself had a name that sounded almost casual, Project Y, at the Los Alamos laboratory.
Meanwhile, the broader Manhattan Project was led by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, with General Leslie Groves as the military director. Groves was famous for pushing things forward relentlessly. He chose Oppenheimer to lead the scientific team, and that decision still gets discussed because Oppenheimer was brilliant, but not an obvious administrative pick at first glance.
Yet he turned out to be the right person for that moment. He could speak the language of the physicists, keep the scientists focused, and help coordinate a project that was both scientific and military. That combination was essential because the bomb had to be not just theoretically possible, but physically buildable under wartime deadlines.
Then came the big question: would it actually work? By mid-1945, the team had completed a plutonium implosion device nicknamed the Gadget. But they still needed a full-scale test to find out whether the design would perform as expected. That test was scheduled for a remote site in southern New Mexico called the Jornada del Muerto, which means Journey of the Dead Man.
Pretty dramatic name for a place where history would be made. The test site was part of what became known as the Trinity Test. The name Trinity was chosen by Oppenheimer, though historians still debate his exact inspiration. Whatever the source, the test took place on July 16, 1945, before dawn.
The setup was simple in concept and astonishing in practice. The Gadget was placed atop a steel tower. Observers were stationed miles away in bunkers and at other viewing points. They waited through rain, wind, and a very tense final countdown. And because no one knew exactly what would happen, there was real concern about the possibility of a failed detonation or some unexpected disaster.
There was even a practical worry about the atmosphere itself, because some scientists had asked whether the bomb might ignite the air. That fear was investigated and dismissed, but it tells you how novel and unsettling the physics seemed. When you're dealing with phenomena no human has ever seen at that scale, caution is not optional.
At 5:29:45 a.m., the test detonated. The flash was blinding, and the fireball rose into the sky. People miles away saw the light. The blast created a mushroom cloud and a shock wave that was felt across the desert. It was the first atomic explosion in history, and the results were, by all accounts, immediately clear. The device worked.
The words often associated with Oppenheimer afterward come from the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. He later said that the line came to mind in that moment. Whether one focuses on the quote or not, there's no doubt the test marked a profound turning point for everyone who witnessed it.
And the aftermath was both scientific and emotional. The test confirmed the implosion design and gave the team confidence that the bomb could be used in war. But it also forced people to confront what they had created. Some were exhilarated by the scientific success. Others were deeply shaken by the destructive power they had unleashed.
It's important to remember the wartime context here. Germany had already surrendered in May 1945, but that information was not immediately central to the project's momentum. The United States was still fighting Japan, and military leaders believed the bomb could help end the war sooner. That belief became part of the decision to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki a few weeks later.
The Trinity Test also had major geopolitical consequences. It confirmed that nuclear weapons were real, deliverable weapons, not just a theoretical possibility. Within a few years, the world had entered the nuclear age, and the United States no longer held that secret alone. The Soviet Union developed its own atomic bomb by 1949.
Los Alamos itself remained a major national laboratory after the war, but the atmosphere changed. What had begun as a hidden wartime installation became a lasting center for nuclear science, weapons research, and later other fields of advanced science. Today, the legacy of the place is still debated because it represents both extraordinary scientific achievement and devastating military power.
That dual legacy is really the key to understanding the Manhattan Project at Los Alamos. On one hand, it was a remarkable feat of organization, physics, engineering, and problem-solving under pressure. On the other, it produced a weapon that killed enormous numbers of civilians in wartime and reshaped global politics for generations.
And even the geography has become part of the story. New Mexico wasn't just a backdrop. The state provided the seclusion needed for the lab and the test, and the desert itself became part of the image of the atomic age. When people think of the Manhattan Project, many think of Washington or New York, but the decisive test happened right there in the New Mexico desert.
If there's a lesson in all this, it may be that scientific breakthroughs don't happen in a vacuum, even when they happen in a literal desert. They're shaped by war, politics, secrecy, personalities, and geography. Los Alamos was where all those forces came together in one of the most consequential moments of the 20th century.
And that's why the first atomic bomb test in New Mexico still matters so much historically. It wasn't just a test of a device, it was a test of an era, and the world that came out the other side was permanently changed. This episode of the Quiz Fix is brought to you by Fyrebox, Fyrebox, the smartest way to put your audience to the test. From lead gen quizzes to personality tests to training assessments, Fyrebox helps you launch beautiful, fully customizable quizzes in minutes. Thousands of marketers, teachers, and creators already use it to turn visitors into qualified leads. Build your first quiz free at fyrebox.com. Welcome back. You just heard the story. Now, let's see what stuck. Coming up, a few quick questions straight from what we just covered. 4 options each. I'll give you a few seconds to think before each answer. Ready? Here we go. Question 1. Why was Los Alamos chosen as a site for the Manhattan Project? A. Because it was isolated, already had some federal land use, and could be kept relatively secure. B. Because it was the largest city in New Mexico. C. Because it was close to the Atlantic Ocean. D. Because it already had a commercial nuclear power plant. The correct answer is A, because it was isolated, already had some federal land use, and could be kept relatively secure. Question 2. What was the nickname of the plutonium device tested at Trinity? A. The sphere. B. The gadget. C. Little boy. D. Fat man. The correct answer is B. The gadget. Question 3. Where did the first atomic bomb test take place? A. Jornada del Muerto in southern New Mexico. B. Oak Ridge in Tennessee. C. Hanford in Washington. D. The Rio Grande Valley near Santa Fe. The correct answer is A. Jornada del Muerto in southern New Mexico. Question 4. What time did the Trinity Test detonate? A. 12 midnight. B. 5:29:45 a.m. C. Noon. D. 9:15 p.m. The correct answer is B. 5:29:45 a.m. Question 5. What was one major effect of the Trinity Test mentioned in the episode? A. It confirmed the implosion design and showed the bomb would work. B. It immediately ended the Cold War. C. It prevented Germany from developing nuclear weapons. D. It shut down Los Alamos forever. The correct answer is A. It confirmed the implosion design and showed the bomb would work. That's a wrap on this one. Thanks for sticking with us all the way through, quiz and all. If you liked it, hit subscribe so the next episode lands automatically. I'm Cyril, this was The Quiz Fix, and we'll be back soon with another true story worth knowing.